Hey guys, this is Brendan with Seller.Tools and I want to talk about TSI. So TSI, I know it's a little confusing in the beginning, but let's kind of dive into it, kind of explain it all and why it's there and how to use it. So TSI was one of the first metric that we had, which we named it Traffic Strength Index. This is a number that we do get from Amazon. In the beginning, this was the only one that we had, the only indicator that we had from Amazon. And then we found broad impressions and exact impressions. And then later on, we discovered relevancy. So imagine for a moment that relevancy, exact, and broad are missing from this display here. But we will reference it just so you kind of understand. So here I have is a jump rope. And here is one of my main keywords, which is jump rope. So with these three columns being gone, we only had TSI. And we would look at this TSI of a 9 and say, okay, so relative to our main keyword here, this keyword phrase here, and traffic, which we don't know how much traffic there actually is, Amazon tells us that it's a 9, meaning that not only is it relevant, but it's also high traffic. Okay, so we label it as a 9. So now that we have broad and exact, we kind of can put those two things together. So one, we have these impressions, which is 200,000, and it's relevant, so we have a 9. But imagine again that these three are gone. This is the only thing that we had, TSI, to indicate that this was actually a really good word. So moving down the list, as you can kind of see, a speed rope, we stumbled across is another one, which is a 6. So again, imagine that these are gone, that this is a 6, so we know that speed rope is good. Jump ropes is another one. Jump rope put together, it's not a 9. Just by putting the space there, we go from a 9 to a 4. As you can see, the traffic from exact goes from 64,000 to 2,500. So this is, again, the original indicator that we have. Now, for instance, you have, let's just say Coca-Cola, which is a really high broad impression keyword, but it's not relevant. So the TSI would know this, and the TSI would say, hey, you know what, this is a really high volume keyword, but it's not relevant to your listing. So I'm going to label it like a 0, 1, 2, or 3. Okay. So anything on the higher end, 7, 8, 9, 10 has a lot of traffic. Anything on the lower end may or may not have traffic, but may or may not be relevant. So let's go for another example, which we are relevant for. So jump ropes. Here's a 4. Let's see if we can find a better one here. Jump rope, kids jump rope. It's only a 2. So we are relevant for it, but the TSI indicator says, hey, we are relevant and there is traffic, but there is low traffic. Okay. So again, this is the only thing we had. So the rule of thumb that we kind of used was if it was a 0, we just completely knocked off our radar. So for instance, the old way we used to do keywords was we would go over to Merchant Words, grab a bunch of keywords, and then throw them into Seller Tools, and we noticed that 60-70% of them would come back as 0s or come back as 1s. So we would definitely delete all the 0s and just get rid of those. So again, this is the original indicator TSI, and we've been flip-flopping about keeping it and not keeping it. I would say though is to ignore TSI a little bit. You can reference it, but I think now that we have better metrics, the broad, exact, and relevancy, these two things are huge. I wish I had these things 2-3 years ago. 2-3 years ago, I did have TSI and did point me in the general direction. Think of it kind of like a compass. It did point me in the right direction of what keywords actually had volume. I ignored all the 0s, and that's how I build my listing. We definitely still do that over in the listing manager. Heading on over to listing manager, we do still have the TSIs 0 to 10. 10 being higher traffic, 0 being absolutely none at all. But again, now that we have jump rope, now that we have these broad and exact and relevant metrics, I definitely would use these over TSI. So hopefully this makes a little bit more sense. Definitely focus on these 3 metrics over the TSI. But just to let you know, if the TSI comes back as a 0, more than likely it's probably a bad keyword, or the broad or exact impressions come back as a 0. More than likely it's a keyword that you don't really need. So as you can see here, jumping rope for exercise women, broad is 0, exact is 0, TSI is 0. I would definitely get rid of this keyword. I would never look at this keyword again. So yeah, hopefully that makes a little bit more sense about TSI. Well, actually, I have one more example here. Speed jump rope. So TSI is a 0, broad and exact is a 13. What this means is that it's coming in and out of the Amazon system. One day Amazon says it's important, the next day Amazon says it's not important. That's why it's such low numbers. If it's definitely a 0, 0, 0 and a 1 over here, that means, hey, it did pop up in the last 90 days, but ever since we've been keeping track of it, there is absolutely 0 traffic on this particular keyword. So you can make your decision at this point either to keep the word or not keep the word. But something like this, I would just get rid of the thing completely. Scrolling down, now that we have the exact, I would actually keep these over these zeros. So I would keep jump rope adjustable length and jump ropes adult. I would definitely keep them and ignore the TSI at this moment. So not to kind of beat it into you guys again, but definitely look at broad impressions, exact impressions, and relevancy over TSI completely. So hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have any questions, kind of jump back over to the Facebook group. Let us know you guys' thoughts on the TSI. What we may do is maybe hide it for a little while and then bring it back if we start losing this data. But hopefully this makes sense. I know it's a little bit longer video, but if you guys have questions, let me know. Thanks, guys.